Welcome to Nene Math. It's me, Nene, and today we're going to start lesson 5.1 for absolute value. But before we start doing the questions, I'm going to demonstrate to you what is absolute value. So let's get started. So what is absolute value? Absolute value determines how far a number is away from zero. The symbol for absolute value is used with two lines with any number in between. So there's a symbol, it just doesn't have a number in between. So I'm going to show you some examples so you can understand what absolute value is. So basically, when I look at absolute value basically makes all the numbers positive. So if there's a positive number such as 1 in between the absolute value, it would be 1. But if there's negative 1 in between the absolute value bars, it would still be 1. So it basically keeps the number positive. If it's still positive, it stays the same. So absolute value of 8 is 8. Absolute value of 6 is 6. But the thing is, decimals can also be in absolute value bars. And so can fractions. I just don't have an example of it in here. So the absolute value of negative 1,789 is 1,789, and the absolute value of 89 hundredths is 89 hundredths. Okay, so that is the explanation of absolute value. So now I'm going to continue on to the questions. Finally add the questions now. So lesson 5.1 absolute value. So the question is, answer the following questions using inequalities with absolute value. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first problem. The absolute value of negative 0.142 is blank to absolute value of 0.141. So what I'm going to do is, instead of mentally doing it in my head, I'm going to write the number on top so it's much easier to do it. So the absolute value of negative 142 thousandths is, we're going to make it positive, so it's 142 thousandths. So I'm going to write that on top. And the absolute value of 141 thousandths is still positive, so it's going to stay the same. It's 141 thousandths. So now that we have the simplified version of the number, I'm going to use an inequality. So basically, if you need a recap, an inequality is basically using symbols such as greater than, less than, or equal to. So those are some examples of inequalities. So that's the kind of inequalities I'm going to use. So I see that 142 thousandths is greater than 141 thousandths. So that's why I'm going to put the greater than sign right there. So that's our first problem. So now continuing to our next problem, we're going to this. So I have the absolute value of negative 5 is blank to the absolute value of negative 5. So we're going to make that positive, so they're both going to be 5. So that means 5 is equal to 5, so that's why I'm going to use the equal to sign. So now we're going to move on to the next problem. The absolute value of 889 is blank to the absolute value of negative 889. So I'm going to solve that on top. We're going to make this one stay the same since it's still positive, and we are going to get rid of the negative sign right here, and we are going to make it 889. So that's why they are still equal. We're going to use that sign. Okay, for our last problem, we have the absolute value of 578 is blank to negative 1. So we have 578, it stays the same, and we have negative 1. So not much work there. We know a positive number is always greater than a negative number, so that's why that's going to be greater than. Okay, so that wraps it up for our first question. Okay, so now the next question. Answer using true or false and prove your answer using a number line. So the number line is already made for us, which is a lot of help. So the inequality they gave is -5 is greater than -4. So I'm going to solve it on the number line so it makes more sense. So looking at the number line, I have -5 and -4. So I'm going to plot the points right there so we know. So I see that -5, 5 looks greater than 4, but we see this negative sign like right there, and the negative sign makes it opposite. It's not a positive number. So if we plot using the positive side, 5 is greater than 4. So that is true there, but we're turning it around since it's negative. So that's why we are going to make this its opposite. So that's why we're going to say it is false because it's negative. So this one is incorrect, and -4 is greater than -5, looking at our number line here. So that wraps it up for our final question for absolute value. So thanks for watching. I hope you understood, and I'll see you next time. Bye!